Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name's Max and today we are joined by a special guest. His name is Potrude Potter and today we're going to be painting on him. He has been living a life of hardship in the garden, so he has a few battle scars on him, scratches and bird poo and such. And the plan is to upcycle him into a bin, one of the small ones you can have in your room. But as you can tell, he is rather large, so we're going to have to do some special maneuvers to be able to film him properly. I hope you enjoy the video. I set everything up on the dining room table because my desk has shelves over the top of it that overhang, so the pot couldn't actually fit underneath. I know it's not the most aesthetic of shots, but it's practical and it works. Usually with crafts like these, I do a white base coat so that paint can apply easier and I can change the colour of what I'm painting if I want to, but I didn't do that on this one because I actually quite liked the blue colour underneath and the paint actually stuck quite well to it. I wanted to paint the pot in a sort of mandala style. If you don't know what that is, it's sort of like patterns that start on one thing and then they sort of move into another thing, and it's quite cool looking. And I wanted it to be sort of nature themed because of course it is a plant pot, and even though we're not keeping it as a plant pot, it would be nice to have some sort of reflection to its past life. I started my design with some green leaf shaped triangles coming down from the bottom of the pot, and then I got a darker green and added some leafy details on it. This looks quite horrible now, it's quite messy and untidy, but it does get better, I promise. When I was making this at this stage, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore, and I was thinking of giving up, but I'd only just started really. So I kept going, and it does look a lot better in the end. I added a brown outline to the edge of the pot there, and also some little green offshoots coming off the leaves, which were going to be the base for the next layer. And also in the little gaps between each leaf, I added a little heart. The next layer involved sort of fiery colours like orange, yellow and red. I used these colours throughout the whole design. This layer was meant to look a bit like petals but also fire at the same time. I'm not sure how well I achieved that, but I did need to go over both the hearts and the petals a few times because the blue was showing through quite badly. I gave the hearts a red outline and added red to the collection of petals. For me, this is the part where it starts to look better. I got a very pale green and I went over the edges of all the leaves at the top. Using this lighter colour to balance it out really helped because it added more tone variety to the pot and made it a little bit less bland to look at. I added white dots to the centre of the hearts and the little green offshoots, and also some little triangle-y line things at the bottom of each of the leaves. And the petals also got some shading and white dots as well. For the next layer, I got the pale green back out and I created some more little offshoots, this time coming from the hearts. And once I'd finished that part, I added some tone variety by using my darker green to go over the centres of them and make them look a bit more interesting. I also added white dots to the centre of all these offshoots as well. These offshoots acted as a bit of a border between the layers, and when I started on the next layer I wanted to do a sort of swirly square pattern which I'd seen on quite a lot of mandalas before. I wanted to do it in white first and then go over it in the fiery colours, because last time it took me about 4 or 5 coats to finish all of the petals and I didn't want it to take that long again. This time I only needed to do 2 coats to achieve the same results, so that was quite a good thing to do. I started going around with all the red ones first. The white did show through on the edges a little bit, but I was alright with that because you can only really see that when you look quite closely. Next I did the orange ones, and all the rest were yellow. Once I finished that, I mixed up some lighter colours, and I used these to add little dot details on all of the different swirls. You don't really notice these unless you look quite closely, but they do help to add a bit more texture to the piece instead of it being sort of flat and two-dimensional looking. It makes them pop out a little bit more. Then I began with the next layer, again acting as a bit of a border. I did these green triangles which were going to turn into leaves. I used my medium green colour for this, which was the same as I used for the base colour of the leaves on the top. When I added the actual leaf parts, they looked a little bit like fish, but trust me, they are leaves and they will look like leaves eventually. At this point my arm was starting to get a bit sore because of the angle of the pot. I had to bend it backwards a little bit at my wrist, and that was irritating me a little bit. I added another brown border at the bottom of these leaves. This helps keep the design a bit more consistent, having things that repeat throughout it. Then, using my dark green colour, I added little circle details to the leaves. This keeps it similar to the ones on top, but not exactly the same. After I did the circles, I got the light green colour back out again, and I did the border like I did on the ones on top. I know it only looks like about 10 minutes for you, but painting this pot took me literally all day, a whole day, with only a couple breaks in between, and my arm was very sore afterwards, and I had very sore shoulders from bending over it. I'd like to say it was worth it in the end, but I think it would have been wiser to do half one day and then half the day after, because I was very tired afterwards. In between all the leaves, I put a big white circle. This was going to be covered up by more layers of paint that were in the orange, yellow, red colour scheme. I also added the little white details to the bottom of each leaf. Once all the white circles were dry, I filled them all in with my yellow colour. Some of them were very varying in size because of the difference in the curvature of all the leaves. I then got a orange and a red, and I did circles inside the yellow one. I then added 6 red dots around the outside of each circle. Then I got the white out and I added little white dots inside the red ones. Once that was finished, I got the white out again, and I'd added 3 curved lines under each of the circle patterns. Originally I was going to go over these in my red and yellow and orange colours, but then I realised that that would be a bit too concentrated, so I left them white, and I think that did actually look quite good in the end. The next layer of the design was also a base coat of white first. These were supposed to be flowers with big petals coming off of them, and I used the white as usual because the paint didn't really cover up the blue very well. Between each of the flowers I added little green offshoots. These were supposed to be sort of leaves, but some of them looked a bit like chilies because they had to curve around where I hadn't left enough space. I also used these to add sort of leaves to the bottom of the flowers. Then I added big yellow dots to be the pollen centres of all the flowers. And again, this doesn't look very good, but it does look better once I add the details afterwards. I added red petals to the 2 outside ones and the 1 central one, and then the 2 others were orange. Before adding the orange, I had to wait for the red to dry, so I used the light green colour to add details to the chili leaf offshoot things. When I added the orange petals, I made them go overlapping the middle one a little bit so that the red wasn't too overpowering in the flower. Then once that was finished, I got the white again, and I added little dot details on all of the leaves and also on the petals as well. The centre of the flowers had little curved U-shaped lines, and then the petals had straight lines and then a little dot at the end. And once I'd done that, again I got out the brown paint and added a brown border around the bottom of that to mark the start of the next section. I added some dots above the brown line in the fiery colours. They weren't in any specific order this time, I just sort of dotted them around randomly. And this next layer is going to look very, very messy, but don't worry, I do tidy it up a bit afterwards. For this last layer, I wanted to use all of the different colours that I had, so I did these little curved things, and I filled them in with the light green and the yellow. And these were going to be sort of rainbow looking arches. Obviously they're not rainbows because they're not in the right order and they don't have all the colours, but I painted the middle of the green ones with the medium green, and then I used the orange to do the same on the yellow ones. Then I used a darker green to fill in the final bit, and also a red on the orange and yellow ones. I promise I will sort out that horrendous mess soon, but first I'm getting a white and I'm doing little highlights on the edge of all the bumps. I couldn't film this part so well because it is so close to the bottom of the pot that the camera couldn't quite curve the right way that I wanted it to, but you can just about see, so it's okay. For the thick bit on the rim, I wanted to use up all my leftover paint that I had, so in no particular order, I just painted big stripes up the side of it. I didn't worry about doing a white base coat for this one because it is in shadow from the rim at the top, so you can't really tell that the blue is showing through underneath. I added the brown line to tidy it up, and then it was finished. Here it is. I think it looks really, really good. It's very festive and colourful, and if you like it as well, make sure to leave a like and subscribe on this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!